Hello everyone, welcome back to this Beckhoff TwinCAT 3 motion control series video. I will use two videos to discuss how can we modify the velocity, change the axis speed on the fly. Maybe change the velocity on the fly sounds like a little bit weird for the new starter. But if you used the motion control before, and especially if you used this move velocity before, you will know changing the velocity on the fly will be an issue. So I will use two videos to discuss. Basically, I will explain there would be two methods. One is we will use the power override, use the override feature from the Beckhoff MC power. Use the override, we can change the speed on the fly. Another way, I will use the next video explain. Basic idea, I will use two move velocity, trigger the two move velocity alternatively. In the next video, I will explain how can we program that. In this video, I will firstly show this issue, how this move velocity, how that works, and show the change on the fly issue when we use the single move velocity. And then I will explain how can we use that power override feature. Okay, let's quickly review this MC move velocity. We are discussing this move velocity, the purely speed control. So this function block, every time we trigger this execute, the command will use the velocity set point. That time we trigger this function block. And the velocity target that control, that is the velocity that time this function block was triggered. So keep in mind here, the in velocity output is set once a consistent velocity is reached. Once consistent velocity has been reached, the function block is complete and no further monitoring of the movement take place, which means every time we trigger this function block, the axis will be controlled to reach this target velocity. But after that, the axis just running itself. Firstly, to stop the axis, we have to use the MC stop or MC halt to stop the axis. This is a very key important concept. We need to use the MC halt or MC stop to stop that. This function block is only used to control, give a certain speed and let the axis run. And another thing, because of this execute only available once it's got a rising edge, the trigger signal. So if you look at this, so this execute, the command is execute with a positive edge. Is only available for the rising edge. Okay, another thing, if you look at this busy feedback, true means the command is started with the execute. If busy is false, the function block is ready for a new order. Reversely, which means if the busy stay on, even if we give a new trigger, that speed won't be available, won't be transferred to this function block inside. So you can imagine if you give a speed and this axis start to move before it reach that speed, and that time you change the velocity. For example, if we are controlling one VFD or one servo motor, the servo motor speed is controlled by a PID. The PID output need to adjust the VFD or adjust this servo motor in time, right? So this set point is changing on the fly. So this speed set point is changing on the fly. Once you got the trigger, the speed transfer inside this function block and deliver to the axis. However, before it reaching the first command, it cannot receive the second command. So this axis cannot changing on the fly. This is a big issue. Maybe someone will think, how about use a toggle signal like an on-off trigger, right? Trigger the execute, and that time this velocity command can be delivered into this function block. So every time you got a rising edge, right, you on-off, and trigger. However, it doesn't work because especially for the acceleration and the deceleration very low, that case, the first time you trigger this function block, that busy will turn on. But because of the acceleration, deceleration is very low, so you need a time to reach the first command speed. Before it reach that speed, if at this moment trigger this function block again, give a new speed. Before it reach that speed, the busy is still on. So the second command will not be available. It cannot receive this new order. This is a key issue from this single move velocity. So how can we change the speed on the fly, especially if we are using the PID or other control logic to control one VFD or control the servo motor, their velocity need to be changed on the fly. However, we are using the MC velocity or MC function blocks to control our axis, control the speed or control the position control. It's very easy. However, changing the speed on the fly is an issue here. This is really annoying. Okay, to show this issue, let's go to the TwinCAT. For example, in my case, I'm using KL2541, this module, control a step motor, and for the speed and position feedback, I'm using a encoder, the encoder mounted behind the step motor. So this is my motion control closed loop system. And I'm using the Axis 1. Axis 1 connect this hardware connection here. And for the MC function block, the axis name named single axis here. And then from the program wise, the MC function blocks is connecting this single axis, this axis underscore REF. And now I'm using the MC power. To show this issue, I especially set the acceleration and the deceleration very low. For example, if I go to axis 1, go to the parameter, and now I set this acceleration and deceleration to 10, which is very low. So we can see when I set the 300 speed, for example, at the first, so the axis ramp up. At that time, I changed my command from 300 to 20 and then trigger this 20. But because this acceleration deceleration very slow, so it needs time to reach that 300 first. But during that time, even I trigger the 20, the side point velocity to the command, it won't work. So let's see this case. So let me firstly power up this axis. Okay. Now firstly, let me enable this axis. I'm setting 100% power override to the MC power. Okay. And then let's go to the velocity here, MC move velocity. And I'm going to set this velocity set point. Now I'm using this window, watch 1 here. I can set 300, for example. I'm preparing this 300. And once I trigger this velocity command 1, B axis here, and we can see this 300 will send to the axis, and the axis will head to 300 millimeter per second, that speed. Okay? But meantime, this busy, we can watch this busy signal. This is the actual velocity we can see. So before it reaches that 300, this busy will stay on. But meantime, if I trigger a new command set to 20, set to a very low speed, we can see that speed won't be available to the axis. Okay, let's show this. So let me trigger so I can turn on this command. So now, because it's the acceleration very low, so the axis is ramped up. Okay, and in the meantime, I'm gonna turn off this. So this is the rising edge. Okay, I turn it off, prepare for the next time. And now, if I change to 20, I firstly send to this 20 here. If I trigger it again, so meantime we can see once it's ramping up, this busy was on. This busy is on, right? So if I send this command, we can see it's still high to 300. The 20 won't be available because this busy is on. It will now receive this 20, this new command. Okay. I turn off this trigger. Okay. Once this busy got off, now if I trigger, okay, this speed will slow down with a lower deceleration. Now this axis is ramping down. We can see it's busy again because it's using the 20. Slow down the axis. We can see the speed is slowed down. So this is the issue. If this side point is changing on the fly, even you toggle this rising edge trigger, execute this command, it won't work because it has to reach the first command and then execute the second one and then execute the third one, which doesn't work because for controlling the access servo motor or VFD, we need to adjust the speed on the fly, right? So let me show how can we do that. How can we change the speed on the fly? And now let me firstly stop this access. Okay, so turn off this command. And don't forget to stop this access, we have to use the MC hop or MC stop. So I'm going to use the MC stop to stop it. And it will run down and stop. And then let's go to MC power. So in this video, I will mainly discuss we will use the power override this function to change the speed. Okay. To read the detail for this MC_power, let's go to Beckhoff information system. Search MC_power, and as we can see, this override explanation is here. Velocity override in percent for all movement command, 0 to 100. The value set to here, that is 0 to 100, that's the real value, okay, a float. And its unit is a percent. And its base, the actual value sent to the command, its base is the movement commands, which means if I set 100, so the actual speed, that is, for example, using this MC velocity. So this is the command speed. So command speed is 20. If I change to 100, if 100% set there, this 100 millimeter per second, the speed set point will set to this function block. If the override we send to 20%, that time 20% times to this 100 millimeter per second, that equal to 20 millimeter per second. That 20 will send to this MC velocity. So the override percent value will time to this velocity set point and then send to the axis. So let me roughly show how this works. Okay, now our axis power on. Okay, no hot and no stop. Okay, now I'm going to trigger this axis. Okay, now this axis is ramped up. Its target is 100. Okay, meantime, currently this power override is 100%. If now I change to 20, we will see the axis will slow down. Our acceleration deceleration is very low. So we can see this control slow down to 20. Okay, if I increase this to 80%, click this red value. So our target 100 times to this 80%, that 80 millimeter per second, that 80 millimeter per second will run in the axis. Okay, so we can see this override, the axis keep running. Once I change this value, percent value, we can override the speed on the fly, right? Even now, if I set 0, this axis can be slowed down even to 0. Okay. And also, meantime, I change the speed before it reach there. I change to 53, 56, so it can ramp up. Also, before it reaching that speed, I can change to a low speed, and let's see. So it slowed down. So we can see the speed can be changed on the fly. 100. I ramp up towards to 100. Before it reached to 100, I can change to 40. So it do not need to reach 100 first, then go to 40. It can directly go to 40, right? It's changing on the fly. It's really in real time, this value set point. Okay. Now I'm going to stop this axis. So according to this test, we can see the power override, we can adjust this percent value and adjust the velocity, this move velocity. We can only use one move velocity and decide a certain side point velocity here. And once I trigger this, so the axis can keep running, right? For example, once I shift to auto mode and start up the machine, so this axis can keep running, but the speed actually can be controlled by this velocity. This velocity can be set as a maximum speed. And then we can use the override percent value adjusting the speed, right? What does means of the maximum speed? So in actual case, how can we deal with this maximum speed and our target command speed? So let me show how can we do this. Actually, it's very simple. Let me log out. So firstly, we need to define maximum speed. This maximum speed is just used for mass calculation. It doesn't mean the maximum speed for your axis. It could be a very high or it could be very low, but this maximum speed must be higher than any command you need to send to the axis. So firstly, let me declare one maximum speed. So for example, let me declare a long rail max velocity. Okay, I declare this variable under this GVL_SA, this GVL page here. Okay, and then let's set this maximum velocity to the MC velocity function block first. For this MC velocity, we will replace this. Okay, we will replace this. Let me cut this, and we will use the maximum speed because the actual speed is based on the second here times that percent value. Okay, so I will use GVL_SA dot maximum speed. Okay, long rail max velocity. Say, okay, we will always set a solid max velocity here, and then we will use the percent value actually control this move velocity. Okay, and we will use this power override this value control that percentage value. Okay, and how that percentage value come from? So we will do a little bit of math calculation. So to do this math calculation, I will use the structure test to program this. Okay, so all the MC function blocks is running in here. Is running in here. This is single axis LD ladder logic. And before that, I can do a very simple math. For example, this variable is our actual command. I'm gonna use this actual velocity command over divide that maximum speed GVL dot maximum GVL_SA dot max speed to calculate this percent value. Okay, and this result we will transfer to that override. This override, this power override this variable. Okay, go to here. Okay, and since this is the percentage value, is from 0 to 100, so we need to time a 100. Okay, and before that, we need to set a maximum velocity. So this maximum velocity actually is just for calculation. It just need to be the maximum speed higher than any command you need to send to the axis. For example, here I just need to arbitrarily send 500. Okay, and now I log in. From this calculation, we can see 100 over 500. That's the 20%. So 20 will send to the power. Okay, power. And now if I trigger this one, so from this move velocity, we can see here the velocity for this move velocity, that's the maximum speed 500. But because of the override that percent, that's the 20%, so it will only run 100 millimeter per second, the actual command. Okay, so if I override, so we can see the axis start to run. and its target is 100. It won't be 500. Okay. If now I change to 200, so we can see I do not need to retrigger this command. I just need to deliver to this variable. Okay, so we can see the axis start to run, become faster. And before it reaching 200, I can slow down this axis. And I can adjust the speed on the fly. Okay, now it's slowed down. And again, before it reaches 20, I can increase the speed, demonstrate it's changing the speed on the fly. And we can see this busy never got on because it never reached that speed. So it's always follow my speed. But before it reaches that speed, I can send a new command and it's working. So it will slow down. Okay. And before it reaches to 56, before it got that busy, and also get this, and also okay, now it's reached 0. If I send a new value, it can still run. I do not need to trigger it again. 100. Okay, it's towards to 100. But before it reaches to 100, if I set a 0, it just directly go to 0. You do not need to reach the 100 first and then reach the 0, right? Because this override is working. If now I send a 10 again, that 10 is just a 2% because the maximum speed is 500, right? It's running very slow speed. Okay, so this is a power override. We can use this power override for adjusting the speed. We can use this percent value. And again, using this very simple calculation, this maximum that need to be only set the maximum speed higher than any command value we send to the axis. So maximum value also need to send directly connect to the MC, directly connect to this MC velocity here. Okay, and then we are using the override. The override calculated by the side point, the actual side point, now that is a 10, for example. And the denominator, that is the maximum velocity here. It calculates to a percent value with times 100 here. And in this method here, so in here, we are using that percent value and this maximum velocity, control the velocity on the fly. Okay, this is the method 1. In next video, I will discuss the second method. I will use two function block, MC velocity. They will run alternatively. So see you in next video. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumb up. If you like to watch more videos in my channel, please subscribe and hit the bell. Thank you for watching.